Good afternoon, and thank you. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon because, well, I like following directions. So when I was asked to be a part of this, I went to the interweb and saw exactly what I was supposed to be doing. And it said the future of stories, but it said past, present, and future. And so in a way, it was kind of easy for me because I can really sort of speak to the past piece because since I was this high, I wanted to be a history teacher, and then through college and as a professional actor, it came that I actually really wanted to write, and I became a writer and a director and a playwright. And most of my stories are set not in the where we are now presently. They are sometimes in the distant or not so distant past. And Shakespeare had Lady Macbeth tell her husband, he's all nervous about killing the king, and she says, we need to get beyond this ignorant present. So that's the equivalent of, psh, psh, pay attention, be present. And so clearly, I can't speak to the future. None of us can. We don't know what that hour is until we live it. But we can try to get present, and it seems one of the ways that happens is through the past, through the telling of stories. Show of hands, how many of you all have heard or have told, or had someone tell to you, or read about those three little pigs? You know the ones I'm talking about. And they had a visitor, uninvited, that huffed and puffed, and what did he do? Blew the house down. And so if we were to tell that story today, or if we were to see it on the interwebs, story's good, it has a beginning, most stories do. It has that middle bit, most stories do, and then it has that arrival point where you're supposed to go, I hadn't thought about that. But today, and this is one of those odious comparisons, but I'm only bearing witness to it. I'm not saying one is better than the other. But if you were to read that story today on the interweb, what would happen? You read the beginning, you got the middle, and you've got the end, and then right below it, it says related stories. And you can click on there, and you can click on there, and one of the stories would tell you about real estate prices. One might direct you to Home Depot. But you don't get that moment of, huff and puff, and he blew the house down, where you get to, or it's for your knowledge, it's for that contemplative thing. So when I was delighted to be asked here, and I thought, well, what can I do? Well, I am a storyteller. My middle name, Devin, is Gaelic, means scrivener or poet. That's a storyteller. In the Greeky times, they had rhapsodes who went around and told stories. So you get the stories because you get to do the listening. And so I've been here since before 1, and I've done a lot of delicious listening. So thank you for all the stories that I've heard until I got up here, but those stories are now a part of me. So I thought I'm going to share 2 stories that I know for sure. And these are called folk tales. And the great thing about a folk tale is you can add something to it. Show of hands, how many of you in the last week have had a good cry? Or in the last month? That the ugly cry, the snot, and then when the cry is finished, there's that after. Okay, so I'm positing that, not that it's lost with the interweb, but when we are in the presence of one another and we share those stories, sometimes it's good to get the, that's the thing we do together. And I thought I had 2 stories. One is called The Word That the Devil Made Up, and the other one is How the People Got Their Color. Now these are folk tales. So you can tell them, and you can tell them, and you can tell them, and you can always add a little flavor. They are not static. They just kind of live and breathe. So I'm going to first tell the story of how it was the word that the devil made up. Show of hands. How many of you know how hot it gets in August and why it gets that hot? He asked on a Friday at Mosey. Why does it get so hot in August? Yeah, but it's something to do with the devil. Oh, okay, I'll tell you. It gets that hot in August because that's the one time of the year that the devil does all of his cooking for the upcoming year. So on this, yeah, that's true. If I'm lying, I'm flying. And the devil, he was a good cook. So on this particular August, he made some string beans, cornbread, sweet potatoes, turkey wings, stuffing, Jell-O mold, red velvet cake. And you know what the devil said? He said, this is good. But he looked around and he said, oh, before I eat, I have to do all this washing up. I don't feel like doing all this washing up. So what did the devil do? He said, I know. I'll get me some angels to do this washing up. So he took off his apron, laid it on the counter, went out his gate, fastened it shut, and he flew on up to heaven. Now, the devil knew the way because he used to live there. Take me with you. And so he gets to heaven and he sees all of these angels standing in front of the pearly gates, in front of heaven. So what did the devil do? He grabs 100 in his right arm, grabs 100 in his left arm, grabs 100 in his tail, and 250 in his mouth. Whom, 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 whom. And he flies on back to his house. And he sees a man standing in front of his gate. And the man says, Mr. Devil, is that some angels you got in your mouth? And the devil said, yes. Well, the angels fell out of his mouth. So he tried to grab them with his right hand. They fell out of there and he tried to grab them with his left hand. They fell out of there, tried to grab them with his tail. And the devil said, damn, I'll be damned, which was redundant. I still got to do this washing up, and I don't got me any angels. So what did the devil do? He said, I know where I can find me some more angels around the backside of heaven. So the devil flew on up to the backside of heaven, and he saw 100,000 angels taking a cigarette break. And he said, hey, angels, look over there. It's the Son of Man. And the angel said, oh, Jesus, where? So he grabbed 100 in his right arm, he grabbed 100 in his left arm, he grabbed 250 in his tail, and 500 in his mouth. He fly on back to his house, and he sees that same fool man standing in front of his door. Man said, Mr. Devil, is that some more angels you got in your mouth? And the devil said, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the word that the devil made up. Mm-hmm. And the reason why that's important, you know, it's very nice to get this and the accolades, but you know as well as I, if someone says to you, or if you are handed a meal that is really delicious and you go, mm-hmm, the cook goes, well, you know, that's gold. So sometimes it's that acknowledgement that you get when you tell the story. Now, sometimes in the beginning, there was the Word. But even before there was the Word, there was those caves in Lascaux, France, with the bison. They ain't said nothing. They just... When bees go out and look for honey, and they find it, when they get back to the hive, you know what they do? Or something like that, but they dance. They don't talk bee talk. They dance. Show of hands. It's that after swell, that sort of communication without the words. How many of you, show of hands, in the last week, month, certainly in the last year, have had any sort of sexual congress? I'm just asking. Again, there is that experience. There's the beginning. Of course, there is the middle. And then there is the arrival point. It is without words. The French call it the little death. But if you were to experience that same thing again Comparisons are odious, but I'm making one anyway. On the interweb, you finish, you've got your beginning, you've got certainly your middle, and you've got the arrival point. And then below there's related articles about, click here to talk about or reference the experience that you just had, which is not a criticism. It's where we are. That's the other great thing about living right here today. You can only be in this moment. James Baldwin says there's never a moment in the future when we can work out our salvation. The moment is always in the present. The moment is always now. So the moment is now. One of the now moments for me was coming to St. Petersburg, Florida, 15 years ago. Having sort of not a big idea what I was going to do. Love brought me here, and love has certainly kept me here. But one of the unexpected things, because I left a community of lovely people in my hometown of Los Angeles, and you know as well as I, the people you love are the people you know. And the people you want to love are the people that are just the opportunity to have that happen. Well, I have been here 15 years, and what I've experienced in St. Petersburg, I didn't really think was possible. And now I'm approaching 60, and you think, everything is sort of coming full circle, like that snake that kind of swallows its own tail. It's sort of M.C. Escher-ish, kind of that kind of thing. It's all very kind of circular. So in 2012, there's no new way or different way, I dare say maybe exciting way to tell stories. It's the same thing. There's always a beginning, there's always a middle, and there's always an end. So my question to you here is, show of hands. How many people know how the people got their color? He said on a Friday. Ed Mosey, TEDx. Oh, see, I just said, in folktales, there's no wrong answer. How did the people get their color? And we all know that the oldest known bones are found in the hurt dirt of Africa. So that means you're my brother, you're my sister, you're my mother, you're my father. We're all connected. Those stories go way back. But how do you think the people got their color? Okay, I'll tell you. God created the heavens and the earth, and he said, this is good. And he created Gabriel and his horn, because he liked jazz. And then he said, this is good. And he sat down on his throne. He looked around. He said, Gabriel, I created the heavens and the earth, and not much is happening. And Gabriel said, well, God, Lord, you didn't create any people. God said, what was I thinking? So he got up. He didn't have a V8. He got a big mound of dirt, and he seasoned it up just like he liked it, don't you know? I said, this is good. And he said, I'll make some people. So he made 100,000 people, and he set them on the fence to dry. 100,000. Went back to his throne, all satisfied with himself. You know how God gets. All Bill Cosby, like. And he said, God said, this is good. And he's looking off at the world, at the 100,000 people. And after a few days, he said, Gabriel, they're not saying anything. And Gabriel said, well, God, Lord, you didn't give them any mouths. They couldn't tell any story. So God stood up. And he said, well, so he gave them some mouths and some nose and some eyes and some ears and the whole complement. Yeah, God. And he said, this is good. And before you know it, those 100,000 people started singing and dancing and fussing and cussing and fighting and raising such a noise. God said, this is raising my blood pressure. So he flung them to the four corners of the earth. And he said, this is good. He sat back on his throne. He said, Gabriel, it's kind of lonely. and I don't know anything, I don't know anybody, I don't have any friends, I don't get any emails. You know, he was really concerned. And then Gabriel, font of ideas that he is, he said, well, God, why don't you give the people some color? God said, yes. He said, Gabriel, 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, you blow your horn, have all the people come, and I will give out his color. 7 a.m. rolled around the next morning. God looked to his east, to the left, said, this is good. I'll make y'all yellow people. And then that happened. And he looked to his right, to the southwest, said, I'll make y'all brown people. And this is good. And there was a great multitude in the center. I'll make y'all white people. This is good. Gabriel, is that everybody? And Gabriel said, no, God, there are still some more people sleeping down by the river. Gabriel, God said, blow your horn. Gabriel said, I'm on it. Gabriel took his horn, ran down to the river. You people better get up. It's 7:02. God's handing out color. You're going to be fussing. You better get up. So the people got up, and there were so many, don't you know? And they started running to God's throne, and the ones that got there first started kneeling, and the ones bringing up the rear started bumping into the ones that were kneeling, and they started knocking God's throne back and forth, and God stood up. He said, get back, get back. And the people said, get black, get black. And that's how the people got their color. Now, if I'm a lion, I'm flying. The great things about telling stories, which I would posit, and I would hope you would agree, it's to find out. It's to be in that space where we're all together. Some stories are just sort of ha ha ha. Some have or like the word the devil made up, some, but mostly they want to bear witness to our time here together, sometime in conflict, sometime in harmony. But I think, and this is my first TEDx, but I really like the idea because at heart, even when you have the hardware, and I've never been on a stage with this many screens, you have the possibility of us breathing together, being here together, and maybe, well, certainly, we are changed by that. And the degree of the change, you can't always qualify or quantify. And then in closing, I will say this, and it's best done in song. Zora Neale Hurston was a native of Florida. And she went out, she put on her shoes, and she went out to find out how people do what they do and why they do what they do. And what she found out is you can write about it and you can chronicle it, but mostly you have to have ears to listen. So I invite you to listen to this little song that she collected in her travels around Florida. And I would also invite you to join in with me. It's called the Crow Song. Maybe some of you know it. Well, we can say without fear of contradiction, you will at least heard it this afternoon. So I'll do the first little bit, and then I'll say like this, and that's a little signal for you to join in. So it's percussive. Mama, mama, come see this crow. See how he flies. Mama, mama, come see this crow. See how he flies. This crow gonna fly tonight. Oh, oh, oh. Mama, mama, come see this crow. See how he flies. Oh, there's a clock here. Mama, mama, come see this crow. See how he flies. Come on. This crow gonna Okay. Oh, very good. Okay, I'll start at the top, and then we'll all join in, and then I'll Mama, mama, come see this crow. See how he flies. Mama, mama, come see this crow. See how he flies. This crow, gonna fly tonight. Come on. Oh, oh, oh. This crow, gonna fly tonight. Oh, oh, oh. Thank you very much.